Good. Well, we
Let's
now
go,
have
let's
a
go ahead and call
quorum.
the roll. Yes, thank you.
Treasurer Falwell,
Yes, I'm
Katie
ready.
Boskin, Melinda Plume is heard.
Here.
Marquita Robertson, Chris Egan,
Here.
and Tim Smith.
Here.
Okay. All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you all. This is Treasurer Falwell. Thanks staff for putting this up today, and thank you for joining us for the Wednesday, May 10th, 9:30 a.m. of the North Carolina ABLE Program Board of Trustees meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. In the end of the meeting, we'll have a public comment section for any organizations who would like to address the board later in the agenda. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting today. In our initiative at the State Treasurer's Office to increase our governmental transparency, we've established a policy to record audio and video of official meetings like this one and make recordings available on our website. This is an effort to increase transparency and accessibility of public meetings that fall under the Department of the State Treasury. Today's meeting is being recorded under that initiative. Just a few meeting details. We'll have a roll call vote on any vote that we need. Without objection, I repeat, without objection, anybody who makes a motion or second to a motion will be considered a yes vote for efficiency purposes. If you have to leave our meeting for any time, please announce your departure. And if you return, please announce your return as well, as these items must be recorded in our meeting minutes. Please state your name before speaking, and we'll take all votes by roll call. And finally, any text or recorded communications between board members during the meeting, even on personal phones, are public record to the extent they concern the meeting. As a reminder, please mute your phone if you're not speaking to cut down on background noise. We've already called the roll, and I'd like to bring your attention to our Ethics Act. Members, you have a copy of our agenda that talks about identification of conflicts or potential conflicts of interest. Please take a moment to review the enclosed agenda that has been previously presented to you. Does anyone have an actual potential or appearance of a conflict of interest? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 8th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Melinda, so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Tim Smith, second.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. Treasurer Falwell votes aye.
Katie Boskin, Marquita Robertson,
Here.
and Chris Egan.
I'm here.
All right. Next up, I have an item that I wanted to discuss. I wrote to the board last week. When the NC ABLE program was implemented back in 2017, the department and the board felt it was necessary to meet 4 times a year. The program is now in its 6th year and it's operating very effectively. Additionally, the board has chosen to participate in the National ABLE Alliance, which is a consortium of states, instead of operating a standalone program for North Carolina. Given those facts, as well as the fact that there's not really any major sweeping changes in the program quarter over quarter, and in consideration of the board members' time, the department would like to formally recommend reducing the meeting frequency of the Board of Trustees for ABLE to the required meeting frequency under the North Carolina General Statute, which is semi-annual. We would propose to keep the May and the November meetings each year. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Hey, I have a question. It's Marquita. What are other states that are set up like North Carolina? How are they handling their meeting frequencies?
So, do you,
This is Marquita. This is Reed. For the Alliance, I'm not familiar, although I will say that I think there are only 2 other programs maybe that have boards, and the rest report up to probably to an individual, whether it's ultimately it's the treasurer of the state or someone else. And Jose, are you familiar with which states and have board structures and how frequently they meet?
Good morning. This is Jose Gamboa, and thank you so much, Reed, for calling. I do know that, for example, Indiana, and can you folks hear me? Just making sure.
yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. And I know Indiana is one Alliance member that does have a board meeting. I believe they meet quarterly. However, a majority of the Alliance members do not host or report into a board. So there's not a requirement to meet on a quarterly basis. However, the National Able Alliance, as Jeff had mentioned, does meet on a quarterly basis. And typically that's when we do fund performance, program updates, etc. Thank you.
Jeff, can you hear me? This is the treasurer.
Yes, sir.
When you first brought this recommendation to me, I think you polled the members before I agreed to put it up on the agenda. I would also like to add to what Marquita said, and Reed, please confirm this. If any issue at all were to come, would need to come before us, other than at the semi-annual meetings, that we would have an opportunity to call the board to convene the board. Is that correct, Reed?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So when this was brought to me originally, it was because there was the need, as we were ramping up the program, to meet every 4 times a year. And what staff recommended, I thought made common sense. And I entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendation, with the board members understanding that if something were to jump up on the table in between the semi-annual meetings, that I would, at staff's recommendation and Reed's recommendation, I would call us back to order, even if it weren't a semi-annual meeting.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, this is Melinda. I think I might be the only board member that was here from the very beginning. And there was a day that we were meeting much more frequently even than now, quarterly. And things are going so well. I am totally in favor of this recommendation. I will make that motion.
Okay. Make a motion to accept staff's recommendation. Do I hear a second?
Tim Smith, second.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. The treasurer votes aye.
Treasurer Reed wants to make a comment, but I will record your aye vote. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes,
Reed?
sir. Just briefly for the board members' awareness, there's a bill in the General Assembly to amend the Open Meetings Law that it appears would require at least 4 members, a quorum, to be in person for meetings going forward. If that bill passes, I believe it would. If it does pass, would become effective in October. So, if our next meeting, if the board did approve this proposal, and our next meeting were in say November, that would require at least it appears, would require at least 4 members to be in person.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. The rest of the roll call vote. Katie Boskin. Marquita Robertson,
Sorry, I was muted. I approve.
Chris Egan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We're now to the investment policy statement revisions. And before I turn it over to Reed, has anybody signed up for public comment?
No.
Okay. I will go on mute and hand it over to Reed. And then Zora's got some exciting stuff that she's going to bring to our attention.
Thank you. This is related. This is Reed. This is related to the investment policy statement and some revisions at the alliance level. It's also related to the issue we were just talking about in the sense that the board at the outset of the ABLE program adopted a structure where the NC ABLE program is part of a consortium, specifically the National ABLE Alliance, and the board has continued to support that approach to the NC ABLE program. And one of the effects of that is that we have a single investment policy statement. There's one investment policy statement for the alliance. As you know, we have the same investments across all alliance programs, and therefore one investment policy statement. We have oversight of investments through an investment policy subcommittee at the alliance level. Illinois also has the lead state in the alliance has an investment consultant that works with, and of course, Census Investment Advisors, which is an affiliate of our program manager, provides oversight and recommendations as well. Those changes are made by a majority vote of the alliance. The changes that are before you are for notice only. The department that supported these changes, voted for these changes as part of its sort of day-to-day operational role, responsibilities for the NC ABLE program. And just briefly, I mean, the memo in your in the revised policy materials has the changes, but just to highlight those changes, there's now a high yield income fund added to the domestic fixed income fund lineup. The benchmarks for the international equity funds were changed. They're a little more expansive now. As a result of that index change at the international level, both international equity funds were replaced. The allocation to international equity was also increased, and the U.S. large caps, mid cap, and real estate were produced based on updated capital market assumptions. So I will, I'll stop there, but if there are any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer those. Also, we have Jose from Census is on, as well as Paul to answer. They may be able to answer any questions I'm not able to answer.
Any questions? Hearing none. Zora?
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am going to provide a high-level overview of our communication efforts with the NC ABLE program over the past quarter. And next slide, please, Patty. So the NC ABLE program really continues to evolve and grow, and it's supported through sponsorships, ongoing events, our various social media channels, as well as our website, ncable.org. And over the past quarter, we've also added the Miracle League of the Triangle to our roster of sponsorships that already includes the Special Olympics of North Carolina and the Autism Society of North Carolina. So we're really excited to continue to work with these wonderful organizations throughout the year. Also in Q1, we participated in several different conferences and in-person and virtual events throughout the state, including the NCAPSE, where we presented live and talked about the features and benefits of NCABLE. So that was really great because we were able to answer audience questions in person, and we also provided take-home resources to all the conference attendees. And then lastly, our webinars really continue to be a positive force of awareness. And in Q1, we hosted 2 of our own NCABLE webinars, as well as participated in 3 different webinars with outside organizations. So next slide, please, Ms. Patty. Our website, ncable.org, really continues to grow as a great resource. And we've seen a 30% increase in Q1 in the amount of visitors that come to our website from across the state of North Carolina. And not only that, in Q1, the website also saw an increase of 30% in the amount of page views. And the average visitor to our website is now staying for nearly 3 minutes. And that's really great to see because it shows people are just clicking on the website and leaving, but they're actually, looking around and using the content that we make available. But perhaps most impressively, we saw our NCABLE enrollment checklist usage increase by almost 500% in Q1. And I think that really also speaks to the steady amount of increase that we see in NCABLE opened accounts, as well as the increase that we're seeing in the program assets. And we celebrated a really great milestone in Q1 where we saw the NCABLE program's assets go over $20 million for the first time ever. So again, all great things to see. Next slide, please, Patty. So social media continues to be an ongoing source of support for our program, and we continue to share different content from the events that we attend, and that usually performs really well. And in Q1 alone, we saw nearly a 43% increase in our Twitter engagement. So again, we're slowly and steadily growing across all of our social media channels. When we take a look at what we have planned for Q2, we will continue to host our monthly NCABLE webinars. We will also continue to partner with community organizations and also engage in different events, in person and virtual, throughout the state. And one big thing we have coming up is the Special Olympics of North Carolina Summer Games, which we're very excited to be involved with. But before I close, I also want to extend a big thank you to everyone. A thank you to the board and staff for everyone's help with marketing and events and just raising awareness of the program. It does take a village, and we're really happy with the progress that the program's making. But without everyone's help, we wouldn't have got there. So again, a huge thank you to everyone. And honestly, that was all the highlights I wanted to cover today, but I will stop here in case anyone has any questions for me. I'm happy to dig into anything further.
Any questions for Zora? Thank you, Zora.
Thank you.
Jose, you're up.
Hi, good morning. Can everyone hear us?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Good morning. My name is Jose Gamboa. Thank you so much, Treasurer Falwell, esteemed board members, and NCABLE program team members for allowing us to participate during today's board session. Super excited to go review the program metrics. My apologies, but unfortunately, I'm unable to see the screen. So I'm going to follow along with my paper deck, and we'll walk through it. So the first slide, total assets by month. Super excited, and Zora had actually pointed that out. End of March, we recorded north of 20 million in assets under management, which is just fantastic. When you look at us, let's say last year in March, we were at 16 million assets under management. we're looking at a 23% increase. So clearly the boots on the ground, clearly the village work is making a positive impact to the NC Able program. So that's fantastic. And then in a subsequent slide, you'll see NC Able program continues to rise in the rankings of total assets under management in comparison to the other Alliance members. So if we move to the next slide, contributions by month. Once again, strong demonstration of our NC Able savers. A great deal of activity, typically at end of year, most likely because they want to make sure that they max out their annual contribution limit. Last year was 16K. This year it increased to 17. And then we also suspect, even from a January perspective, a great deal of contributions. And what we expect there is typically, again, a lot of folks will jump on maxing out their annual contribution limit at the beginning of the year. So again, strong performance. We see year after year, it just continues to grow. Patty, if you don't mind, next slide, contributions by type, please. Once again, this is pretty impressive. NC Able savers, the typical saver here, we're consistently seeing web registered folks who are extremely web savvy. We see, as in terms of the most contribution percentage is coming through single electronic fund transfers, right? We're at 48.86%. We see a great deal of reoccurring contributions at 10%, totaling $249,000 a year to date. But for those folks who still want to submit a paper check, we absolutely want to support that, and we still see strong contribution numbers, even the paper method. But again, I think the most important highlight here is, listen, we have NC Able savers, and they love to go online, and I think this is a testament to it. We saw just in year-to-date 2023, 1.1 million in single electronic deposits. So super thrilled about that. Patty, to the next slide. This is an interesting slide here. Contributions by age group. Again, I think, when we look back here, the plan was launched back in 2017. So we continue to collect more data, and really for the purpose of understanding our behaviors, right? Understanding what are we saving for, how are they contributing to the account. One thing we decided to do with this particular slide was break it out into 10 kind of 10-year bands. And what we saw here was a great deal of contributions happening between the ages of 20 and 29. Again, our theory is, hey, what's happening is the able savers reaching the age of majority. So what's happening is potentially what they're doing is they're saving for their future, right? They're essentially saying, hey, listen, I'm striking it out on my own, and I'm going to be independent. So what do I need to do so? So hopefully this is an early indication that NC Able savers are doing, are using it not only as a transactional tool, but also an investment kind of mid to long-term tool. And just so everyone knows, this is a trend that we also see not just with the NC Able program, but I would say generally speaking across the National Able Alliance. Ms. Patty, if you don't mind, if we could go to the next slide, distributions by month. Again, we see a ton of activity, which tells us, and we'll see it in a subsequent slide, but again, the NC Able savers, there's always going to be savers, but then we're also covering those savers that want to be able to transact, right? To be able to use their NC Able debit card to go ahead and pay for their day-to-day expenses or maybe even larger ticket items. Patty, next slide, please. And this is broken down by the distributions by type. So year to date, again, we see the fourth row, withdrawal at bank, right? So $500,000, north of $500,000 in withdrawals using the debit card or checks. A great deal of activities happening through there. But again, if folks are not comfortable using a debit card or the checking option, they also have the ability to use what we call the NC Able Unite platform to withdraw their funds whether it's a paper check or right into their bank, they could certainly do that from the target risk options. And we do see that as well. Patty, next slide, please. And similar to contributions by age group, we notice this trend too, which is where is the most activity happening in which age band? And once again, we see a great deal of activity between the ages of 20, 29, and 30 and 40. So once, it kind of fills that theory, rounds out that theory that yes, around that age band, folks are striking it on their own, and they're starting to be hopefully independent financially. Next slide, Ms. Patty, please. Thank you. And this is new accounts by month. Clearly, Zora and team are doing a fantastic job. Again, year to date, we have 115 accounts and total plan accounts 2008. So just in January, February, March alone, we saw 115 enrollments come through. Next slide. Patty. And here we just break down the accounts by disability type. And the following slide is accounts by eligibility, basis of eligibility. And then the following slide, slide 13, account closures by month. We're looking at approximately, in total, 56 year to date, with most of them really coming down to inactive accounts, which is, again, an account may have opened maybe a year ago, maybe had rendered it to a zero balance, and is no longer using the NC-ABLE savings account. And then if you turn to the next slide, Ms. Patty, please. Again, this is the Alliance Assets Ranking as of March 31st, 2023. NC-ABLE continues to move up the ranking. Again, they're now north of $20 million in assets under management, comprising about 5.5% of the total assets under management for the National ABLE Alliance. And the following slides are...
Hey, Jeff, this is Treasurer Falwell. Do we have enough quorum to adjourn without me?
Yes, sir, we should.
Sorry?
Yes, sir, we should, yes.
Sorry about that. Just call me back if that's not the case. I've got to get on another board call at 10. But
Okay, thank
call
you.
me back if you need me to jump back on to adjourn. And thank all the board members for showing up today. Right.
And gentlemen, just to be clear, this is Katie Boskin. I've been able to join.
Thank you, Katie. If Katie's joining us, other things must be in good order. That was treasury humor, Katie.
I know, I just can't find the mute button, the mute and unmute button fast enough, but everything's okay.
Continue on, Jose.
Perfect. And really the next slides are the fund performance, which my team member Paul Supay will cover as part of his investment review. So I'll take a quick pause right now and see if any board members or NC-ABLE program team members have any questions for us.
Okay, hearing none. Paul, if you'll go over the investment results.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So just a couple slides here. We start with like kind of plan performance and the kind of asset allocation throughout the plan. And North Carolina ABLE, in comparison to the other states within the National ABLE Alliance, is the most aggressive or so within their allocations compared to the other states. There's only 2 states that are above kind of 50% allocation towards those top 4 target risk portfolios. So aggressive portfolio, the mildly aggressive growth, and moderate. So there's about 55% of the allocation within those 4 portfolios and 45% to the bottom 3. That is kind of inverse to what we see for National Able Alliance in total, which is about 45% to those top 4 and 55% to the bottom 3. So only North Carolina and Pennsylvania are above 50%. So what that basically means is that the market is a little bit more going to affect what happens with the growth of the plan. So what we saw kind of the down market through 2022, we saw kind of the North Carolina Able having a little bit less growth than the National Able overall. I believe we saw about, what is it, 23% growth in assets, which is still pretty strong for the plan for North Carolina Able. In the past year, we saw about 25% growth for the National Able overall. What we saw in just this past quarter was almost 12% growth in assets, getting over 20 million, which was outpaced what we saw the National Able plan overall only growing about 10%. So with the kind of strength of the market the last couple of quarters, this plan has been growing, outpacing the National Able overall. So basically, it's been a much stronger quarter the last 6 months as we've kind of worked our way through a couple of headwinds. We had the rising inflation, rising interest rates, supply chain issues, geopolitical issues all throughout 2022, and we've seen improvement there. The one thing that has kind of popped up within the last quarter was that kind of regional bank issue that's arisen kind of within March. So having that kind of pop up in March, that has kind of a situation where it's good for some of the market and bad for some of the market. So that really kind of hits the small cap value section, but it's good for kind of the large caps and the growth and technology area. So what we saw was small caps being hurt a little bit, and large caps and growth doing well. So the growth has done well because the growth has done well because there is thought that that is going to help slow down the Fed in raising those interest rates. The basic thought is that the Fed has been raising interest rates to slow that kind of inflation from rising so much, and that's hurt those and the sorry. So that the rising inflation has hurt the interest rates, has hurt those technology stocks and the growth stocks. But with the kind of Fed kind of slowing the interest rate rise, that's going to help growth stocks situation. So what we'll see on kind of the next slide, if we just move to the next slide, what we see in the top two here is the kind of large caps and the small caps. This is kind of the U.S. market in total. So we see the large caps outpacing the small cap stocks, and that's due to that regional bank situation and sorry, I'm having a little trouble this morning. But overall, the U.S. situation is doing fairly well. The international equity market is going even stronger. The developed markets are outpacing the emerging markets. The emerging markets are hit more by the interest rate hikes. And then the real estate is also being hit by interest rates. Real estate was hurt more by the interest rate hikes as well. And that was kind of the worst performing sector of the quarter. That has been kind of a protection to the downside market. We expect this to kind of continue as the kind of interest rate hikes have hurt the real estate market. The final slide here will be the fixed income section. So what we see here is the bonds. We saw longer duration bonds have done well over the quarter, and we continue to see this to be the case as it flips from kind of shorter duration to kind of shorter duration. So as the interest rates move up and we get a higher yield, we're going to have less interest rate sensitivity. And this is going to help the long-term duration. So we've been basically short duration for the most of the last couple of years. And we're going to be switching this to a longer-term duration within the kind of the investment changes that we're making next week. So we're going to be switching to so the shorter durations helped protect the market, protect against losses. When we move to kind of longer duration, this will help give better returns to these products moving forward. So we're going away from towards more. Sorry, I'm having some issues this morning. I actually so we're putting high yield into the program. We're going to be putting more allocation towards the in total bond market, less away from, and that's going to help interest rate returns. So it's the international allocation has also helped within the fixed income allocations as well. So I'm sorry, does anyone have any questions? I know I've kind of bumbled through this morning.
Any questions for Paul and or Jose? Consensus this morning? All right, thank you. Did we have any public comments? Any public comments? No public comments this morning. Before we adjourn, just a couple of items. Again, from the vote this morning, our next meeting is going to be November 8th at 9:30. So we'll go ahead and cancel the next meeting. And then we also, the treasurer, I don't think we mentioned this, but he's opening the ceremonies for the Special Olympics, right?
Yep. So the Special Olympics Summer Games starts on June 2nd, and the treasurer will be participating at the President's Dinner and kind of welcoming athletes to the field. So we're really excited about that.
I mean, isn't he open the ceremonies tomorrow?
Oh, so tomorrow we're going to be in Wilkes County. That's also another Special Olympics event. We're going to have staff there tabling to answer questions. And yes, the treasurer is also going to be there to welcome athletes and kind of kick off the day's event. So lots of things with the Special Olympics coming
So
up.
the treasurer is quite involved in ABLE and doing several events. So, but he is kicking it off tomorrow. So wanted to make sure we mentioned that. Having any other comments from board members? Right. Well, hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
This is
Kim
Katie
Smith,
Boskin.
so moved.
I'll second.
All right. Motion and a second. Clerk will take a roll.
Katie Boskin,
Yes.
Peter Walkerson,
Yes.
Chris Egan,
Yes, for me too. Thanks, everyone.
and Tom Causey instead
Yes.
of Treasurer Falwell.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
day, everyone.